So really, you were never in control of the conditioning there, of how the body was programmed to function. So, like everything, obviously, when it's it just feels like there is a you that's in control, then it will feel like your conditioning is in your control. It will probably feel more like it's a problem, that it's my problem, and that I need to fix it. I need to change it. You know? I need to accept it. But when there's this opening that seems to happen, where maybe first it could be like a shift of identity from this individual sense to just this kind of unknown everythingness, then it becomes more clear that the body's just doing what it's doing. The energy to manipulate and control it isn't there in the same way. So then there's this kind of overall acceptance, you can say, of exactly how it is. And then there's this seeing that can happen of how much suffering sometimes it causes. And it's difficult to describe because sometimes it could feel more personal than ever before, and the suffering that it produces feels more real and is just more obvious and immediate and raw than ever before. And that is kind of what gives that kind of impulse to change it, but it's not coming really from you anymore. It also has this impersonal sense of like, this just is creating a lot of suffering, a lot of pain, and I can't manage that anymore. You know, you're less and less living from an idea of how things should be, which can constantly oscillate either way forever. But energetically, when it is just what is and the body's tired, there's a fed upness, there's a frustration. Somehow it seems to have the ability to really soften in all of these different ways, that when the person is there, when the central controller is really solidly there, it's not as possible. It really isn't. Because you're seeing it from a falsity. Like you're seeing it from a seeming contracted self that's acting as if it's controlling life. as acting as if it is in control of life, my life, life itself. Like literally that's what we're doing. We're saying that we're in control of it. We can literally change it and shape it. And sometimes it can appear that way because then it will be interpreted that I made that change. And that change is actually real and permanent. But is it? Can you ever say that for sure? That this will now be my state or my reality? So as this opening was happening, or unfolding was happening, the learned behaviors of this body, it was shown very clearly, you know? It was just seen really clearly. And one thing I can say is that when there is guilt and shame around it, blame, like this is actually my fault that it is this way and I should be able to change it. When there's that kind of tightness around it, it's pretty unlikely that it'll just kind of soften and unravel on its own in its own time. Because you'll just continue the same loop of desperately trying to fix it and the feeling like it's impossible. And then desperately trying to fix it. You're just going in the same loop, same cycle. But there is an intelligence there, you know, beyond the like conceptual ideas of how this should be. There is a sense, like an internal sense, like enough is enough. Binge eating this much is just enough now. I've given myself a lot of freedom around this, and it probably needed to go the opposite way because I restrained myself for this long. So the energy just needs to balance out, and now it's enough. And you know, that comes from more of this kind of realization, revelation kind of sense, rather than a controlling, manipulating, tight kind of sense. And you'll feel it. You'll kind of know the difference. there's no difference between the sky and the clouds and the tree. The sound of the birds and the gentle movement of the grass. The sound of the wind rustling against the leaves. The sound of the voice and the seeing of all this. It really is all the same. It's one mysterious happening. And you can't really distinguish one thing from another.